Good morning.
Morning.
I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you guys. I have a few updates for you, not too many, so hopefully I won't be rushing through like I usually do. First, I would just like to talk about what a great desk audit it was this year. Nearly every single district passed with flying colors. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Deep River, Pomfret, and Wolcott. They had 0 errors in accuracy. That's amazing. That was really impressive to have 3 districts reach that this year. So great job, guys. And a reminder for those of you who are coming up soon, you'll be receiving letters from me in late February. It's fun. So, a few updates about Restraint and Seclusion. I just wanted to give you a picture of what some of the data look like. Over the last 3 years that we've been collecting individual student level data, we have watched our total incidents rise each year. Our emergency restraints are on the rise, and our emergency seclusions are also on the rise. It is important to note that the change from 13-14 to 14-15 is slightly smaller of an increase than what was happening from 12-13 to 13-14. And our seclusions VNIP are still fluctuating. So there's probably a lot of conversation still going on there. Just look at what's going on with restraints and seclusions by grade. To me, this isn't surprising. It mirrors actually what we see in a graph of first-time referrals to special ed and how that increase happens around that 3rd or 4th grade and then drops back off. So these are not surprising data points for me. But there are a few things that Laura and Stephanie wanted me to remind you. The restraint and seclusion data collection is inside the portal. When you're inside the portal, that means every single individual user has their own username and their own password. This is different than how PSIS and CDAC work, in which you're using a district-wide username and password. So we cannot stress enough, do not share your usernames and passwords when working in restraint and seclusion data. Those are specific to each individual and should not be shared across staff. There is a 2 business day timeline for data submission, and we have begun to monitor that and reach out to districts when they're not reaching those 2-day business rules. The one thing that we would recommend every district be doing would be monitoring the data cleaning reports for restraint and seclusion on a weekly basis. All reports need to be down to 0 cases. Some reminders from Colleen Hales. Please remember that you must be maintaining your written reports of all restraints and seclusions in the student file as well as in a central file corresponding to that collection year. The written notification must be provided to the parents as well as the Nexus LEA, if applicable, if that's not you. No later than 24 hours for a notification and a written report within 2 business days. So if you're a regular LEA yourself and you have students placed into some of your programs, this is also your responsibility to let the sending town know within 24 hours and receive a report within 2 business days. All of the injury reports should be faxed to Colleen Hales. We expect an injury report for all injuries sustained during or as a result of restraint and seclusion, regardless of whether they are serious or non-serious. One of the things that we are receiving are injury reports that are not as a result of the restraint and seclusion. So if you have a student who is biting their arm and they break the skin and are bleeding, and then you restrain the student to stop them from further injuring themselves, the injury to their arm would not be reported or faxed into the department. It was not as a result of the restraint or seclusion. Additionally, we have a section called injury details, and what we're finding is people are telling us how the student injured themselves and not what the injury is. So if a student turns around and punches a wall and breaks their hand, don't tell us that they punched the wall. tell us that they broke their hand in the injury detail section. And it's not that we don't care about your staff, we do, but the law does not require us to collect information on staff injuries. It requires us to collect information on the injuries sustained by the child during the restraint or the seclusion. We tend to try and not collect data that isn't required. Teacher, course, student. This is my new workload this year, covering teacher, course, student, which is probably why I feel like I haven't seen you all in forever, because I've been talking to many other people in the districts. So by taking over teacher, course, student this year to cover a colleague who's out on maternity leave, I have learned a lot about what's happening in the teacher, course, student data with our students with disabilities. So the first thing that I would say is that it is important that everyone realize that every single student must be reported in the teacher, course, student data. Even if these children are outplaced to non-publics, they still must have TCS records. Some of the most common issues are obtaining teacher EINs and teacher types. There are over 34 types under the teacher type column. They cover everything from out of state to 7 levels of certified teachers, 7 kinds of non-certified teachers, 7 kinds of long-term subs and short-term subs. There are all kinds of types. And being able to look at that and help your staff who report the teacher, course, student data identify what type that teacher is who's working with your student with a disability would be great. We're going to be doing a lot more work this year through TCS around NCS course codes and training all of you about what NCS course codes are. I'm not going to do that with you today. But NCS course codes are becoming a real question and issue about what those are, particularly for our significantly cognitively impaired students and our students who are outplaced. And one of the responsibilities is that LEAs must be reporting these data and must be deciding what courses they're willing to report for a student, which means you all need to be involved in that discussion about what are the course codes that are being offered to the child. Session start and end dates are also a critical question. To get data in on a student, you must be able to report a record and tell us when they started that course and ended that course. And one of the problems that's coming up is that people are reporting standard start and end dates for a course. So you're saying English 1 went from September 1st to June 15th. But the student didn't transfer into your district until November. So it's not going to accept a record that says that they started before they entered your district. There are 2 grade columns in these data. One is called outcome grade, and the other one is called outcome grade status. What is important to know about these is that the outcome grade is your data. Whatever you record for that student on grade cards, in progress reports, it's however your district records it. The outcome grade status is a standardized approach to tell the state whether that grade you issued is a pass, a fail, a withdraw, or an incomplete. All of these fields are required and have been very difficult to obtain for students with disabilities who are outplaced. So the question has been raised multiple times: who is legally responsible to report TCS data on outplaced students? And the answer to that is you are, the public school districts. By law, and I have the citation there for you, the LEA is the only one who can issue grades and credits. The non-public makes an agreement with you about what they're going to teach that child and can make a recommendation to you and is required to make a recommendation to you about what those grades and credits are, but it is the decision of the LEA whether or not you will be issuing those credits and whether or not you agree with the grades. But again, APSEPs must be providing these data to the LEA. So one of the questions is, how can we help you obtain the information on your outplaced students? Well, I can help with the APSEPs because we all have contacts for APSEPs. Colleen works with our approved privates on a regular basis and can reach out to them to ensure these data are delivered in a timely manner. However, the non-publics, the state Department of Education has no control over the other non-publics who are not approved. These are contractual arrangements between your district and that non-public. And therefore, you need to be using those contractual arrangements to articulate your expectation of data, when you need to receive that data by, and what data you're expecting from them. We do have some standardized emails that we can share with you to help facilitate that. One of the questions has been about students who are ungraded. We do allow for districts to report that students are ungraded. However, the comments that we received an enormous number of students who were ungraded in the previous year's data. And the Bureau of Special Ed would like to clarify that on page 8 of the IEP, it must be noted that the student is receiving a grading accommodation, that they are graded or ungraded. If they do not have noted that they're an ungraded student on page 8, they must be reporting grades in TCS. It is also important to note that students who are not issued credits or grades for their work cannot earn a standard high school diploma. You must be able to issue a transcript with the courses and the credits earned in order to issue a standard high school diploma. I have multiple students within the previous year's data structure that are reported as ungraded students in all of their courses, and yet the next year, at the end of the year, they're showing up as earning a standard high school diploma and exiting public education. We are currently drafting a worksheet to help with that communication. At the PPT, one of the things we would like to see happening for these Outplay students is a discussion between the local and the approved private. What are their courses that they're offering? What are they going to provide for that student? Whether or not that course is going to be for credit, who will be teaching that course, in order to help you prepare the data for the folks back in your data office who have to submit that data to us. It is the largest data collection in the state. It is millions and millions of records across the state. And so for every student, if you consider, students can have upwards of 28 to 35 records a piece. And then, we have 500,000 kids. This is a lot of information for generally one person within your district to be trying to obtain, and they're really struggling to reach out to the approved privates and the non-publics and obtain this information. I bring this up because these data impact your accountability. So the school and district level next generation accountability uses multiple data points from the TCS data in order to determine what the accountability rating is for districts and schools. We've already started to publicly report these data, and so I wanted you to know that these data are being reported in some places broken out by students with disabilities. So for example, 11th and 12th graders enrolled in at least 2 advanced placement, international baccalaureate, CTE, or other career and technical ed courses. Here's the next generation accountability report. As you see, there are 3 indicators that are pulling TCS data, and all students are included in these data. So preparation for CCR, college and career ready, the percent of kids taking these college and career ready courses. If we're not properly reporting our special ed students with the proper course codes, we're not going to be able to give you credit for those students who are taking college and career ready courses. I'm going to work on some stuff that we can be distributing to you, but we have college and career ready course lists that are separate, so you don't have to read through the thousands of options. You can just look at those so that you can start to have that conversation about, yes, our students are doing transition activities. What are the course codes that would be appropriate for us to pick from for this student? We're also doing on track to high school graduation, whether or not students have earned at least 5 credits in their 9th grade year, and arts access. So I don't know where I'm at for time. Okay, so I'm not going to read these to you. These are publicly available. They're in the PowerPoint. It's not online yet, but it will be available to you online.
Diane, it's there.
Oh, it's already there. Look how fast they are. But I did want to give you a picture about how students with disabilities are doing around these indicators, because the indicators right now over here are all children. So here are the college and career ready data for 14-15. And really, the counts aren't really what matters. Take a look at those percentages. So for 14-15, we saw college and career ready. These are special ed numbers only. 44.8% of students are in grade 11 were reported in college and career ready, and 49.8. Remember, there are a ton of different transition vocational courses that count toward this for your students. In our preliminary look at the 15-16 data, which are not final, and in fact several districts have not even certified yet, we see a great increase in the 12th grade numbers. That was expected. We have some new ways of collecting data for your students who are outplaced to approve vocational transition programs, those TVSPs, Transition Vocational Service Provider locations. So all of those had a new way to report, so they didn't have to give a record. We could just capture that kid in a very quick drop down. So that we expected that increase for special ed for grade 12 this year, so that was very exciting to see that we're starting to capture those kids in the 18 to 21-year-olds in those separate programs, that we should be giving credit to those vocational programs that they're taking. On track to graduation in 9th grade. I wasn't able to get current data on that, but you can see the difference between special ed and general ed for courses completing, earning at least 5 credits in grade 9 for last year's data, 71% versus 86%. I don't have a sense of how reasonable that difference is. I know that the difference between last year's data and this year's data should be dramatic, because last year there was an allowance, a waiver, to not report 3% of your children, and of course they chose all of your outplaced and special ed kids. So this year there is no allowance. You must report on every single child reported in PSIS, so I would anticipate these numbers to go up. Arts access, participating in at least one dance, theater, music, or visual arts course within the school year for any student in grade 9 through 12. A lot of districts called us last year on these data. Last year we talked about numbers being in the upper 40s. The reason they were picking up the phone, because superintendents are saying, what are you talking about? More than 50% of my students in the high school are taking at least one arts course within that school year. So we did a lot of work with the folks in data offices about how you report the arts access course codes. We do see a dramatic increase this year where everybody is over 50%, but still that's something you're going to want to be thinking about. What are the course codes that are being associated with your students' courses, and will they count as arts access so that your students are contributing to the data that are being used to determine your next generation accountability results? Another one of the indicators that are being used is chronic absenteeism. I know we've presented on chronic absenteeism before. I just wanted to remind you of where we stand with students with disabilities. The chronic absenteeism rate is still double that for students with disabilities as compared to their non-disabled peers. I'm not going to spend any time on this. We already discussed a little bit what the SIMR is, the 3rd grade ELA data. Just a couple of additional statistics for you from last year's data. In 14-15, the state baseline was 50.1, whereas the state statistic for general education was 72.1. These SIMR data were reported, as shown to you earlier, for the first time on your LEA level APR. We had 154 districts who educate students with disabilities in the 3rd grade. 49 are LEAs that had an index below the state average. 105 were above the state average. And the range went from 36.3 to 92.5 by district. All of these data are available. I know that we showed you earlier where you could find them on the special ed website. We also have all of these data available on EdSite. This is EdSite. If you just go to the state website, just over there on the left-hand side, you click on EdSite and it will take you to all the public's data that we are displaying. That site is growing every day. We're doing new releases of information. We have all the LEA level APR reports, the new profile and performance reports. That's PPR, it's the new strategic school profile. All the chronic absenteeism data is up there, and you can disaggregate it all by special ed and by grade. All of your assessment reports are there, all your accountability reports are there. Currently for special ed, we've only released the prevalence data back for 5 years, but we will over the next 4 months be releasing significantly additional special ed data through our EdSite web service. That's all I have.